episode of Dads in the Class. I am your host, Dion Chavis, the Glad Dad. And of course, this is the podcast where we talk about the importance of fatherhood and family engagement in schools. On this episode, I have a really dope couple that I'm going to have speaking with us about their movement, about some work that they have been putting in just to uplift and empower youth for a very long time. They have a movement that I've known about probably for at least 4 or 5 years now. I'm pretty sure that they've been putting in the work longer than that. But it's called I Am Brilliant. And I love that name. Hashtag I Am Brilliant. They are just a really, really dope couple. They are really dope people that I've connected with in the past. And I just wanted to bring them onto the show to talk about the work that they're doing and talk about their efforts to be sure that we're doing the best we can to make sure that our kids and this next generation has everything that they need to succeed. So I want to welcome Mr. Michael and Shemeka Stewart Isaacs to the show. Hey, y'all, what's happening?
Hi,
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. We're
For
honored.
sure.
Definitely excited to talk about this topic.
I
For sure. So
appreciate having the chance to come and be a part of this. I'm definitely looking forward to engaging with your community.
For sure. Definitely happy to have y'all here. Y'all are both doing some really, really great work. So let's dive right in with the inception of I Am Brilliant. Of course, it's a unique and impactful initiative. Share with us the moment or the experience that led you to create this initiative.
So we found each other in community years ago. Back in 2015, I was very heavy in Southeast Raleigh, more specifically, around community engagement. And while working in community, hearing the cries and challenges and seeing firsthand what community was facing, what I noticed is that they weren't given the space to, really illuminate what's inside of them. And when I was given I Am Brilliant, it was really about what brilliant meant and the I am power energy that's in all of us. And so by definition, brilliant is illuminous. And we all have something inside of us that we're passionate about, that we absolutely believe in, or we are the go-to person for. And I Am Brilliant was a catalyst of how we can remind people to reimagine and re-amplify their light. And being able to partner this initiative with Michael and his energy, passion, and expertise in marketing, it was really helpful for us to be able to capture it in a way that people can catch on and believe in it.
Well, you see right there, that's it. I mean, that was really it, honestly, Shemeka's energy and her infectious energy. I'm somebody who came from hip hop culture. I've been in marketing for many years and media. And basically, I've worked with a lot of entertainers that I know as much as we like to celebrate them, I started to realize that we were giving attention to people that necessarily weren't going to be the change makers of the world. And I always had a thesis in my career is like, what if we put that same energy behind someone that has the kind of passion Shemeka has? And that was kind of the relationship spark in working in communities, is that I saw her passion for wanting to serve and really help people in communities. I had an entrepreneurial startup kind of know-how in my background. And I just said, hey, I wanted to bet on her and hope that she could. She used to say she wanted to make a difference. She wanted to change the world. And so when it came to I Am Brilliant, I already had some marketing, initiatives going that felt real like they weren't really resonating with enough people. And I'm all about unity. And so when Shemeka posed to me this concept called I Am Brilliant, was at a time when we had a radio show called, it was at St. Augustine's College. It was called Sunday Stacks. We got a new podcast reboot of that. But Shemeka was able to one day just say, hey, I got this thing called IamBrilliant.org. I want to start an institution. And I was like, well, that's cool. Let me try something with it. And that's what turned into this hashtag sign that everyone saw. It started off honestly on a piece of paper. We literally just printed out hashtag I Am Brilliant. We went out and started taking some photos with people who were doing different things that we wanted to track, like a record of sorts of the start of someone's career. So if I go back in my Wayback Machine, I've been in the industry of entertainment for 25 years. And my first contract as a youth entrepreneur in promotions and marketing was with Destiny's Child. And so when I was young, I had that opportunity to watch the growth of this phenomenal group that's turned into so many phenomenal women leaders and empowerment. And I've seen that early spark in so many people. So with I Am Brilliant, it was a way to expound, a way of catalyzing and tracking people's starts. Everyone was in the campaign. I see them thriving. We call them the alumni. And we get to now track from a beginning to end. When someone started their business, someone had a new child, someone started that weight loss journey. We have all of these pictures that show the progression once they hit that brilliant spark, and we were able to connect it. We were able to give everyone a position that whether it doesn't matter who you are, your race, your background, it started helping us learn new languages in regards to how to deal with people. And even with our children, we got them involved because we're parents, and we created something called the Brilliant Bunch, where we celebrate our children. So we just along the way, just with a little bit of guerrilla marketing, grassroots. And honestly, our first thing we did on this lady's push is we went to New York and we went to the Today Show. And we took the sign and we held it up high like everybody does. And they saw us and they came and featured us and gave us a big feature. And it was like, wow, just a little bit of effort. And that's all we're trying to do is inspire people that a little bit of effort of your light, a little bit of willingness to be the light in a dark place can change your whole family's trajectory. And that's what we just represent. And that's what we try to model with I Am Brilliant.
Yeah. Now, your mission revolves around recognizing individual distinctiveness. Yes. How has being parents to 6 kids? Yes. My goodness. Yeah. How has that influenced and I guess perhaps challenged your perspective on this?
I'll lift this first by saying, when God brought us together, we became a blended family, and then we had 2 together. So, oftentimes when you co-parent, you have this, well, that's your fault, or that's your kids, when you get that thing. Well, the beauty of us having 2 kids together, we both have to look at ourselves. And see ourselves in our children. And it's 11-year gap between our older kids and our younger ones. So how we even had our first round of parenting tests and trials, we're learning this 2.0 or I guess 5.0.
Your kid's different. Your kid's different. They're different. They built different. I'm telling you, they're different.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I mean,
and having a baby in the pandemic.
Right.
That part,
Right.
I think I think that's Shemeka said it so beautifully, and I think that's why we kind of had to create this whimsical nature of the Brilliant Bunch, because it was really honestly, everything we did was not out of anything more than being driven. I guess when people say you're called to something, but our children were trying to figure out what we were doing. We were mixing our personal careers and trying to leverage those things towards serving in this path. Like we were giving all of our own money to build this thing up in the beginning, but knowing that the investment was worth it to help others to spotlight. And our children were watching this, and we never wanted them to feel excluded. So the whole Brilliant Bunch kind of came from, like Shemeka talked about affectionately, we like the Brady Bunch. I had 2 daughters, she had 2 sons, and they were all the same ages. So now we have 2 first-year college, and then we have 2 that are juniors in high school. So we had to parent them during the pandemic. They were 4 different, there was a lot there. But even now with a kid that's in first grade and then a kid that's 3, we're dealing with all these levels of teaching and having to go back to trigonometry and then also go talk about, college level
ABCs,
things.
Right.
Yeah, all of the above, so it's been a roller coaster, but it helps, I think, with the range of people we come across with our clientele and our speaking. And we get a lot of corporate gigs where we work with organizations to do trainings for their staffs. We help people to start to identify what people now like to call superpowers, but we just say, what makes you brilliant? I am brilliant. And then help people expound that. And it's in a world where a DEI has done what it was supposed to do. And now the world is shifting. And we want to be that position to help people realize that we all do matter and there is opportunity, but it starts with that brilliant spark. It starts with us identifying on our own, not a resume or a job listing.
A human being.
But who are you? What were you born to be as career? And that's part of what we're starting to see as a trend, as a common trend, as we really have been able to take this thing globally and see the effects it has even in other countries.
You spoke on something, and it's a conversation that I can't have with a lot of folks, but I think I can have this conversation with y'all because it seems like we're in similar boats. My oldest and youngest are 13 years apart. And I tell people all the time that there's a different type of parenting that you have to do. My daughter is in her second year of college. My son just started kindergarten, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny how you have to parent the older ones as they're young adults, and it turns more into guiding
Yeah.
than absolute parenting, where what I say is law, or you know how we do as parents.
Yeah.
It's more of a guiding
It's
type of thing.
consultation. I'm giving you
Right,
consultation.
right. And I just hope and pray that you listen.
All right.
So with for y'all with kids on, I call them bookends, basically.
Yeah.
How do you cultivate an environment where each child's brilliance shines?
Ooh, can I start that one?
Yes.
I love that question. That's a brilliant question, and there's a lot of context. And I think we've come to adopt, and honestly, I credit my children in regards to their maturity, but a lot of them especially for the younger ones, my daughters, my sons, they're very maternal and paternal in regards to how we try to parent. We give them grounds to teach them. My daughter the other day was teaching my first grader, all his advanced multiplications already, where he's only in first grade, where that's not normal, right? So he's already ahead of the game in regards to she was teaching him. I, who have a very busy schedule, don't have that time. So just to see her taking that time, and she exposing them to musics and different things. So you start to see the older ones at their mature level start to teach the younger ones, and just giving room for that, and not fighting it, but allowing for what you maturated in the older ones to start to come out. So then as they're maturing, it's like you start to see the parenting that you've given them apply to them raising the younger siblings. So that's my, little spiel, and what I've seen with all of my children and their maturity and how they stepped up to help us out as we're trying to build, a business that's not easy,
Definitely.
Absolutely. I'll just lift what I was able to glean and kind of allowing them, getting behind what they believed in and what they're passionate about. So I have two sons that, of course, they're into sports. They both play football. They were great at basketball as well. And then now they have their DJing business. So we brought them up around the work that we do, and then connected it with the things that they were passionate about. So when my sons were young and I was doing community engagement stuff through the nonprofit organization I was working with and leading, as well as in ministry, they found their niche. They used to have dance competitions and food drives with the things they love to do, which was they love to dance. So they were out in the community with me doing this, and normalizing this helped them come to a space in their own lives where they could identify what they were passionate about and plug it into community. Now my son is at Central and DJing, and going to be DJing homecoming events. So I appreciate that and value that. We push education, but we also know the limitations of this educational system. But it also meant we had to be a very intentional partner in making sure that the school system knew who we were, and that we had expectations just as much as being a co-partner in their learning experience.
Yeah.
Now, I don't, we hear the phrase work-life balance a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I don't believe such a thing exists. I think it's just life, right?
Yeah.
It's just life, and as a part of our lives, we work. And I know that as someone, especially as a married couple, you all have a life, right? You have your individual lives, you have your lives as a couple, you have your lives as parents, you have your lives in the work that you do. Are there any strategies that you can share or that you found that have been particularly effective with helping you to keep things in order in your life, right? Because again, work-life balance, it don't exist for the most part, because we're a lot of us are working at midnight, 2:00, 3 in the morning. You know what I mean? Right. It's a cool thing for people to say. Right. It's all a part of our life.
Right.
What strategies, if any, have you found particularly effective to kind of just keep these things in order?
Can I just jump out there? I would say
Sure.
for us as a family, especially, so I have to preface this with the relationship, right? We're both divorcees. So that means we attempted to, do this before, right? And the ironic thing is her ex is a Cancer like myself, and my ex is a Scorpio like herself, right? So there's already kind of a familiarity that allow for us to understand one another. And I bring that to reference to, I say God first, right? We pray. We ask for that order step guidance every day before we wake up. We are very mindful. If we forget a day, we're not perfect, we'll do it the next day, right? But it's a standard consistency for us to ask for direction. And then from that, we meditate. Yes. Right. So we go external to the odd of the world, and then we look to the meditation as a way of centering ourselves before we start anything. Now, not to say we don't pick up our phone first thing, because I'm getting all the dings and the beeps from my schedules and stuff. But at the same time, I put that aside and I'm very mindful. I haven't meditated yet. I haven't stretched yet. I haven't done the self-care things I need to be effective. I just turned 40 this year, and part of my health.
Welcome.
I'm in the 40 club, thank God.
The warranty ran out yet? The warranty ran out?
No, it hasn't. So I'm grateful.
Okay, it's on the way. It's just be mindful. It's on the way.
It's not in my world. Why? Because I've created a regimen. That's the difference, right? Part of what I do is motivational speaking, and I also bring a lot of my family, my culture. My mother's from Sierra Leone, my father's from Jamaica, so we have different cultural ways in how we eat, what we eat, that already would fall into a lot of these healthy categories by themselves. But I've learned to appreciate them more and apply them. And my family will tell you when they get hurt or whatever, I'm the first doctor, I'm the first, everything in that regards, because of that prayer, because of that asking God's way, and then also learning along the way and listening to the elders that taught me how to do things and valuing that, and then teaching my children the same rewards you get for valuing that. So it's the foundational things that seem cliche. And sometimes we get these argumentative, spiritual morality, religion argument. But when you just root yourself, especially in a relationship, you should pray over every relationship, business deals, whatever it may be, because you need to know that you're going in the right direction from something that's always going to resonate with you, not make you sick. And that's been kind of what is, the success people are seeing from us. We follow our gut, but we follow our prayer energy more. So we know that things that don't come in our way aren't for us, and we truly are okay with that if it's not for us. And if things that are for us, we walk through all those doors. And like Shemeka said, if she opens a door, what you gonna do?
I'm taking it off the hinges.
So that's our balance, honestly, and that's kind of how we start ourselves to keep ourselves in balance. To your question.
And I'll add two more things to that. That'll be quick pointers that people can hold on to. Is that I teach my leadership people, balance is fluid. Yeah. So we kind of have this imagination or expectation that balance is equally yin and yang. But the true gift of communication when you're in a relationship with someone is being flexible. And so there may be times that you'll need balance to be fluid, because 80% of one of y'all may be carrying some things, a lot of things. And then there's those times where we need to minimize to 20% to allow the illumination of our partner to be able to manifest. They still need you to hold them. It's not like you're letting them go, but that relationship building, that communication is something that's so important when you think about what is helpful. And that was the second point, was about the beauty of communicating. Like, we've done this before. We're not trying to get to number 6 and number 7. Like, one's enough. Okay, that was a great substitute teacher. Thank you. But now we're going to get it right, because we're going to keep this line of communication open. We're going to talk. And when we can't talk, we're going to give ourselves a moment, but we're going to be committed to recenter. Because when we have best friends, we don't go to our best friend and be like, I'm going to divorce you. That's not an option. No. So we take that off the table because we value our friendship. That was our foundation. And that helps keep that balance being fluid, because there is no other option but for us to get through it.
Yeah. Well said.
2 things that I want to say to add to that. Mike, My warranty ran out a couple of years ago, and it's all in my knees.
Oh
Just
man. Oh,
FYI, and
trust me,
these
I'm holding on to
joints.
something right now. So those I'm an
It's-
athlete, ex-athlete, so and I
I
skateboarded.
just
So
right.
I
Just want to warn
understand.
you. I
Yeah,
just want to give you a heads up now,
I'm
brother.
feeling them
I ran
already.
out a
It might
couple.
have betrayed
These
you a
these
little bit.
these joints in the morning, they be a little stiff,
They
but
creep. Trust me, I'm still there too. I get that too.
Look, that's why we stretch in the morning. That's just to get out
right,
of bed.
right. That's a
Stretching is
fact. That's a
key.
fact.
That's the
That's a
key.
fact.
Stretching has been the
I,
key.
stretching and ibuprofen, lots of ibuprofen. Uh, I'm crazy, y'all. Don't listen to me. I'm just
No,
joking.
no.
So listen. So y'all touched on some very great points in terms of communication that leads me into my next question, because as a married couple, you both, of course, come into this as one, as a family unit, but you also, I assume, might sometimes have your individual visions for I Am Brilliant, especially in terms of how things are carried out. How do you all handle it when you are faced with having differences of opinions? Is it just communication, or is it just happy spouse, happy house? Like, what is the dynamic when things are when things are a little bit on opposite ends of the spectrum for y'all?
Well, my confession, what now, 8 years in, we don't argue. It's like
Mhm.
argue is a lot of wasted energy that's displaced from some other stuff.
Mhm.
And when you're healing, right, you may argue because you're still broken, and that's a defense mechanism. But it's also this secret weapon that is destroying people's ability to communicate. Because remember,
Mhm.
communication and arguing could look alike at some point in the relating of English language, for so to speak, or French.
Mhm.
There still has to be a value of what's being said. And when a person doesn't feel heard, that's a hurt. When a person doesn't feel appreciated, that's a hurt. And the response to that will vary depending on where you are on your healing journey. And we're sensitive to that. I think God just graced us our energy. What we think when we think about it through the lens of business is that we're complementary to one another.
Respect.
It's not that we're disagreeable about how we see I Am Brilliant manifesting. It's what God gives us on our individual download still has a way of complementing the bigger vision, or we're pieces. I have some part of it and he has another part, and it complements. But I haven't personally had any experience. But if you were rocking the happy wife life, boo, and that's why I haven't felt any of that, I can appreciate that too. Thank you.
Hey, I'm gonna be honest. I'll take that as a truth. But I mean, honestly, I think listen. Just listen to her. I mean, that's really it for me. A lot of what I've had to kind of cultivate as a motivational speaker, I've had to motivate myself in moments I've been down. Right. And listening to her, she just gives me a different perspective outside of myself that I'm willing to accept. I think sometimes we want to feel a completeness when we get into a relationship, not realize you should come in a relationship whole, but at the same time, the other person too should be whole. And that wholeness should be things that we nurture in one another to learn. And I chose Shemeka as my potential, meaning that not only did we have children together that reflect that potential, but at the same time, she edifies me in things that I haven't been able to ever hear before because of my pedigree and what I came from. And I think, it's not so much a lack of argument more than understanding the importance of argument in communication. Just like debates, right? You're never going to see everything the exact same way. But I think the willingness to accept that as a part of the rules versus not wanting the other person to have any opinion or input in what you're doing in your life, especially when you chose to walk with them, is dishonoring the walk. Right. Because one thing I've learned from my past relationships, and that's not just from a divorce, but past relationships, is that people have to learn from one another growing together. If you start going on trips and educating yourself in ways that you're not either your spouse or someone's not curious about, or they're not attending these things with you, you can tend to grow apart. And we work really hard, as people can see. And I guess, funny enough, when we were just out here really trying to impact communities, I think the love part of our family started to spill into the brand, and we didn't. That was a unintentional byproduct of just truly being receptive to one another's emotions. We call it emotional intelligence. That's where your mind is intelligent about the circumstance and the agreement, but at the same time, your heart is allowing itself to go through that temperament of being able to not be comfortable with something new or a new suggestion, but giving it a shot because you trusted your potential. Right. And for Shemeka, she's my potential in one way and I'm her potential in another way. And I think that respect and that reciprocity of allowing each other, because we do vent, but then we create off the vent. And I think that's important for any power couples out there that are pushing.
Don't waste that energy.
Create within the venting, I think, is a great, healthy way. I mean, I'm not even trying to be funny, but you look at the Jay-Z and Beyonces of the world, they created through their venting. It's a beautiful process whenever you can do so, because it doesn't impact the relationship as much anymore. Now you might got something that could have some value to it,
Mm-hmm. And, the way that I like to think of it is that y'all are teammates, right? Whenever you are in partnership and relationship and marriage, y'all are teammates. Y'all on the same team. Y'all are pushing towards the same goal. And just like teammates on a football field, if the quarterback does something that the running back doesn't agree with, the running back isn't going to take his helmet off and smash the quarterback with his helmet, right?
Exactly.
And I think a lot of times in these types of situations, folks forget that they're on the same team. They're fighting towards the same goal. Yeah. But when things don't go the way that they want them to go, they smash their partner upside the head with their words, with their actions, with anything that can be harmful, as opposed to working together as a team to move forward to the goal of the collective. And I think oftentimes people forget that, but I think you all are a reflection of what true teamwork in marriage and in business obviously looks like. So I commend you for that. And I want to ask, in moving back to I'm Brilliant, of course, we talk about the importance of community, the importance of connection. How do you all envision I'm Brilliant being adopted by schools, especially in terms of father and family engagement?
Wow, well, that's funny. You could say that. So I'm happy, maybe I'll call it an announcement, but I'm in the process of working on getting back into the motivational speaking space more consistently. Now, one of my passions that got me even on the path of I Am Brilliant was working with youth that were troubled, working in prisons, doing those things. And now with the growth of I Am Brilliant, we've been able to take a lot of, first, the reflective nature of, it's not about us, first of all. I think that's the part of why it works. It has nothing to do with us. It's about the people who we're activating and waking them up to their potential, to their, even people who are already established celebrities that have been able to be captivated by the question of what makes you brilliant. It's because we've identified that no one is asking people this question in their one human existence. No one's asking this. So part of our adopting to youth and schools is the earlier we get to ask this introspective question, the better it is for the person's development. Because a lot of what you see in me and Shemeka is a product of healing and trying to be healed. And if we can, especially when we talk about mental health and so many other things in our society, if we can work on that self-esteem quotient early by allowing the child to identify their talents and skills versus us telling them what they should be or just cramming information, it could really revolutionize and reform education. And that's part of what we're looking to accomplish, is that reform of education and really get things to move in a more deeper way. So, yes. So, bear with. Oh, you're muted.
I'm sorry, I'm muted. I should have known better than that. I think that is a great answer. And I'll ask, how has the how have your efforts been received by schools when it comes to getting the messaging of I'm Brilliant in the schools? How have schools been receiving your messaging?
I think for me, I think schools, we've really, because we also have to be entrepreneurs and business people. So schools in general have put us in a position to have to, of course, go through the general processes of being a business person. So you have to fill out paperwork, and it's not just like background checks. It's like, get your business registered and established.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're a minority, sometimes and this is another thing I'm trying to address, is that there are things called set asides and other things, minorities, suppliers and those kind of things. You run into a lot of these situational obstacles. What tends to end up happening is, they have kind of a kind of set up system that, they want change and they want a better result, but they keep applying the same applications of the past. And we're trying to come in and we have to play all the loops to get there. But it is a lot of like red tape, as people call it, documents and other things that you need to fill. And rightfully so, like I said, background checks, all that stuff is rightfully important when dealing with children. But when it comes to things that have been certified, things that do have credibility, it's still a red tape thing. And then you run into, oh, well, you're Black. Well, maybe we'll get you through the diverse supplier thing. It's almost as if they can't take you through the normal channels. Something different has to happen for their quota check off. I don't know what it is. I'm not making accusations to corporate partners that I look to work with. I just want them to understand the process is flawed. And so part of that, when it even comes to schools and all these other organizations, is they're working with antiquated processes for new dynamic young kids. And we do need influencer voices like ourselves to be able to impart. So I feel like when I come into a school and I take my kids to school every day and I get that engagement with the teachers, it's the ability to set a stage for the kid's mind to be open to the learning of the teachers, not to replace it, not to say, we're a better force. Is that once this kid now has had an opportunity to express themselves, they won't act out. They're telling you right now what it is that thrills them. They're almost telling you what job they want in the future of sorts when they tell you what makes them brilliant or what entrepreneurial endeavor they can take on. And we ignore that because we're so caught up in having to cram certain information in their mind based on state statutes and, ComCores and, so many rules. We have to look at that. But of course, we know the divisiveness is there in our legislators. So it's a deeper issue to be able to serve the medicine, but we're hoping to untangle that while we're at the same time knocking on the doors respectfully, trying to get into more schools. But corporate spaces tend to be it. And then when we deal with kids, we deal in community. The community brings us to the kids more than the schools in most truth. So,
and I would also lift up too, when we think about our school partnerships, it's an opportunity for the adults to get this, because this medicine is, yes, it's an impartation into the youthful generation. But this question is for everybody.
Yeah.
No matter how Nikki Giovanni answered this question, you know what I'm saying? So this question is for everyone. And when we've had situations where we've had administrative members convene and experience I Am Brilliant, this inspired them. And so for us, we've seen it also make it into the classroom under other umbrellas. What's your superpower?
Yes.
What makes you great? You are remarkable. All of these other things that I believe wholeheartedly has been inspired by this initiative. So though I Am Brilliant may not be licensed partnering with the schools, we have had opportunities to still take the doors off the hinges because this message is so significant and important, from the front desk to the janitor to the child and the lunch line lady.
And as you look ahead, where do you see I Am Brilliant in the next 5 years, especially when we see the landscape of education kind of changing? Where do you see the organization and the movement going in the next 5 years?
I think that's a phenomenal question. And we like to think in those types of multiples. So, in our current standpoint, we're going into a new year and we're already putting down the train tracks for next year right now, right? So this year's in the books, right? We've done what we set out to do. It was a very successful year, but we're also dealing in a very difficult economy. And I think the current economy, like I'm an economics person when it comes to my entrepreneurship. I have a platform called Entrepaganda, and I try to expound on economic concepts because I think sometimes it's not translated to our community. So we just think get the money and that's it. That's the only thing you got to do. Get the house, get the car, but we're not really versed in different types of incomes. We're not versed in understanding interest rates. We're not versed in those things. And so part of what I see the educational system in America's reform needs to be in the next few years that I want to help with I Am Brilliant to lead as we're building out more of the foundation of what we're building is to see financial literacy and the understanding of how to foster innovative leaders that know how to both create and position people in a way that everyone can thrive and prosper with great ideas, with great efforts and productivity, because, you know, that's really going to be the crux with AI, right? I think the whole point Shemeka made earlier, she uses the word illumination when it comes to I Am Brilliant, because she comes from a community standpoint. I say that and I love it, but I come from an entrepreneurial background, a go-get-it businessman with a track record. And so what I say to people is people need a reboot, right? And there's a reboot happening both in education, in the financial system. Financial system one ain't waiting on nobody. It's rebooting as we speak. But it's going to affect the kickbacks. And I've already seen that in some client meetings and stuff, the budgets, right? Because when we have $1 trillion debts the way we do, we have all these different things. There's no easy money coming down the pipeline anymore to fund a lot of programs. And these are all strategic budgets. So when you really get into the minutia of it all, I Am Brilliant is trying to shine on people and communities and find these bright spots, but we're also trying to find the person who's going to have the next big, huge solution that is going to help change it all. But first, people have to really understand what needs to reform and change on so many levels. And shout out to Reform, like those types of programs out there. But we want to be engaged across the board in what it's really going to take to needle all the effort. I guess that's what it is. We've seen people's silos. Shemeka say we've seen their kitchens, and we understand the parts that are holding up the lag. We understand the bureaucratic policy that have caused the help that we all need and desperately want it to happen, why it's slow and why it doesn't move the way you think it should move, right? We understand the limitations of money, let's say that, right? But one thing I know from my community and with I Am Brilliant, we know the power and the impact of value. And so we help people find the greatest value, not in the dollars they're capable of making, but within themselves. And then the dollars will follow you. And we're changing that mindset across the board for everyone who brings us out. They're shocked. They not expected to hit with profound prose that are original, because so many people are used to the cliches. So many people are used to what they saw on the TED Talk or something like that leading the day, or what book you read this time, right? But we're thought leaders. So there's a constant original comprehension, and it's a way of us giving this energy to other people to create that thought background and really want to change. And I'm saying this all because I want to shout out October. You know, it's a anniversary to Occupy. I was a part of the Occupy Wall Street movement out of New York. And so I come from that, right? And that was after being someone who loves capitalism and studied the markets and had a banker's background, had a media background. So I was on the other side of what that seems like is about, but I brought a balance, to your point again about that word, to the perspective. So there's communication can always be fostered amongst people, because we're not going to agitate our way to fixing these things. We have to understand the legalis. We have to understand how it's connected. We have to understand the missing pieces. And that's a lot of what we've been able to do as an organization, is with the photos, with the pictures, with the different relationships we're building, we're able to bring silos together that weren't talking before, still thinking there's a problem. And we're saying, no, there's a lot of solution leaders out there. And they're here, they're in this part of Chicago, and they're in this place here. They're doing these great things here. So don't give me the narrative that nothing's happening, because I Am Brilliant will disprove that. And we can get on the phone and on our Rolodex and call somebody right now to show you that there's great bright spots everywhere where people say there's only darkness.
Yeah. So in 5 years, in short, we'll still be doing this.
Yeah, this is it. This is it.
We'll be lifting this, as well as creating pathways for other community champions to amplify their brilliance, whether it's through entrepreneurship, whether it's through building capacity and growing their leadership development. We really focus on family, community, and company. So creating those avenues where networking and education and entertainment can happen. That's our blend. That's our jam. We're there, and we're in partnership. So whether it's showing up in community or hosting the community events ourselves, we'll still be on this. 2 years into that 5 years, we'll be hitting 10 years. So we're excited about that and what's going to be unfolding in that capacity as well.
Yes. So we're excited. And we thank all the alumni, everyone who took a moment to take a photo, to be a part of something bigger than yourself, because it's bigger than us too. And that's the blessing of it. This is a impact movement that was about impact leaders. It was a way to say, let's clear the befuddle. Let's get past generationalism. Let's get past, social media misses. Like we wanted to connect. We wanted to find a way to connect everything people say that couldn't be connected, couldn't be blended, couldn't talk across the lines. Especially in times that we're in today, we want to be able to create a place where people can communicate ideas and who they are without feeling like they can't, or it interferes with someone else's existence. And that's what we've been able to foster with I Am Brilliant. It's safe space for people to recharge, renew, reflect, have new thoughts, but at the same time, be able to feel a safe space where you expressing who you are is valid in any way it comes out. And that place that you're able to express that talent or that gift, we say that's where your leadership begins.
Mike, you said something earlier that reminded me of something that the great poet Sean Carter once said when he said, he said something to the effect of, as a people, a lot of times we know the cost of everything, but know the value of nothing. And I think a lot of times we focused on what something cost, right? And not necessarily what the value of said thing is. And I think it's important that, as Black folks, we look at the value of things like I Am Brilliant. We look at the value of things like getting our kids involved in STEM programs. We look at the value of going above and beyond and being engaged in our kids' education. So I think that's important. And that, I got that from a piece that you mentioned. So I know y'all got 6 kids to tend to, so I'm not gonna hold y'all much longer. I'm going to add, at least 4 kids at the house, 2 in the house, right? 4 at the house. And I know that youngest one is probably giving y'all a run for your money. So
I know. Oh yeah, for sure. But we grateful. We have a wonderful mother-in-law, and my mother-in-law that I love dearly. So she definitely helps us, and that's what it is. It's family, right? I think if people looked at this as a family business, well, you too can have a family business and build it right
and be engaged in community. When we had this opportunity to be featured in the New York Times during the pandemic, they wanted to know what we were doing with our Biden books. It was a priority for us to step to the plate. We're absolutely, what was it? We were the largest family featured, the only Black family, Black mom, dad, Black children featured. And we stood in position to really get naked. They saw our income. We had to show receipts, literally.
right.
But we wanted to be able to have that moment in time, that timestamp to show what's possible.
Yeah.
Not that we're perfect or we're better, but no, we're struggling. We got no excuse. We go team, no excuses.
No excuses.
Here's an example of somebody that did. We're not an anomaly. Yeah. We're not. Don't put us on that pedestal. That's why I take the door off the hinges, because if I could do it, you could too, or you could do something like it, whatever that'll look like for you. So finding that space and finding that lane to get naked, get to your real self, and then be ready and committed to align and go to that next existence, I think is so important. And thank you for having this platform for us to be able to have this investment into families that are showing up, that are in the classroom, are going to the parent-teacher meetings, like, hey, we see you. Thank you for your commitment, and thank you for being part of the shifting the narrative so that you could show the world better than we could tell them about how brilliant we all are.
There we go.
Yeah. If there's one message, one takeaway for educators, for families, from I Am Brilliant, in a few short words, tell me, what would you want that to be?
Being yourself is enough, but once you understand who you are, then it's your job to be even more. I think what we're trying to do is get people into their full level of capacity. I speak a lot, not as someone from a religious cloth, but somebody that understands the value of something like the Bible. Particularly, I love the parable of the talents, right? And the quick version is basically, the master gave someone 5, gave the other one 2, and the other one 1. And the one that had 5 came back with 10. The person who had the 2 came back with 4, and the 1 said, no, I protected it, I buried it. And then the person was shunned for the fact that they didn't try to multiply once they knew they had a certain talent. So that's to anyone. I see it in NBA players who go from playing ball to trying to become entrepreneurs. I see it into so many different layups. If you get one talent that opens doors for you, you know, not only is it your job, like Shemeka said, to leave the hinges off of the next ones. We see that in the gymnasts. We see that. And so once we get exposed to the tennis stars, there's something now we're seeing it in financial literacy. We're seeing it in community development. We're seeing a new way, and we're challenging the establishment respectfully. I call it graciously aggressive. Being able to go out here and challenge the establishment at the same time while having to play within the rules, right? So we're not rule breakers, but we're rule makers. And that's what I Am Brilliant is about, is how do you set that, reconstitute yourself. How about that? Reconstitute yourself. Give yourself your own personal constitution and morals and values that you stand by. And what that states and what that standard is, live by it, and watch how the universe, God, opens up so many doors for you, because that is the key. Your story told well and you dealing with your stuff gives you all the access you need to thrive and grow. So
that's so good.
That's good. That was good. That was good. That was good. Shemeka, what you got? Anything? That's hard. That's hard to follow up. Like, what you got?
You know, if there be anything, if you are serving our community in an administrative or teacher position, first of all, thank you for your service. And I just want to remind you, if there be anything that you can take in that inspire and spark your class to be transformational, is remembering that you are in abundance within yourself. And use what's in your hands. Your system, the culture of in the schools, they'll tell you things from a scarcity mindset. We don't have enough. We can't do that. We're limited. We didn't account for that. But I challenge you and implore you, if you want to see a transformation in your classroom, find your light within yourself. Remember your why you're there, and use what's in your hands. You are limitless, regardless of the ecosystems or institutions that you are partnering with. Do not be bogged down or feel oppressed in your space without remembering who you are, remembering you have everything you need inside of you, and you have the power to transform the environment, even if it's an environment of relationship with your one-on-one with your student.
That's good. I think that is a perfect way to end this conversation, or to put a exclamation point on this conversation. I think that is a brilliant statement by both of you. I thank you all for joining us on this episode of Dads in the Class. It has been a pleasure to share this space with y'all. I've learned so much just from our brief time together today. Looking forward to doing some dope things with you all, hopefully in the future, and connecting with y'all going forward.
For sure.
And just thank you. So if you are listening to this episode of the podcast, please don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget, you can find us on YouTube, all podcast platforms. Be sure to share it with somebody who you think can benefit from it. Leave us a comment, show us some love, and we'll catch you all on the next episode of Dads in the Class. Shemeka and Michael, I appreciate y'all. You are definitely both brilliant individuals, and thank you all for the work that you all are doing with hashtag I Am Brilliant. We'll see you on the next episode, y'all. Peace.
Peace.
Thank you.